The bet that made me the prettiest cheerleader. I never thought of myself as the type to stand out. That's what I always told myself, anyway. I was just the quiet girl in the back of the class, the one who knew how to blend in without drawing attention. And that's how I liked it. At least that's what I kept telling myself. It was easier that way, no pressure, no expectations. But sometimes, I would catch myself staring at the cheerleaders during lunch or at games, watching them with a mix of admiration and longing. They moved with such confidence, their laughter infectious as they exchanged jokes and teased each other. Their radiant smiles made them seem almost untouchable. I couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to have that kind of confidence, to be noticed for something other than my quiet demeanor and unremarkable appearance. At 17, I was pretty average in every way. Average height, average build, average looks. My long brown hair was often tied back in a messy ponytail, and my wardrobe consisted mostly of oversized sweaters and jeans. I didn't know how to do makeup, and I certainly didn't have the kind of clothes that would make me feel like I could walk around with the same kind of confidence I envied in those cheerleaders. It wasn't that I disliked who I was, it was just that I felt invisible sometimes. I kept to myself, buried in my textbooks and daydreams, but deep down, there was a part of me that wanted more. I wanted to be noticed, to feel beautiful, to be someone. But it felt so far out of reach. And then, that day, the bet changed everything. It started like any other afternoon, standing around with a group of friends, talking about the upcoming school dance. We were in the cafeteria, the usual chatter surrounding us as we sat at our table. My friends were discussing who they were planning to go with, the outfits they'd wear, and of course, who would be crowned king and queen. I listened quietly, half in the conversation and half lost in my thoughts, when Mark, one of the most popular guys in school, casually threw out a challenge. "You know," he said with a smirk, "I bet I could get anyone in this school to be the next cheerleader if I tried hard enough." I laughed awkwardly, not really sure where he was going with this. "Oh, really?" Katie, my best friend, said skeptically. "That's a bold claim. What? Are you going to convince some random nerd to join the squad or something?" Mark's eyes twinkled with mischief. "You'd be surprised, Katie. In fact, I'll make a deal. I'll bet you $500 that I can turn any one of you into the most fabulous cheerleader this school has ever seen. Give me a month, and I'll make it happen." The room fell silent. Everyone seemed intrigued, looking from Mark to Katie and back. Katie raised an eyebrow. "You're serious?" "I'm always serious," Mark said, leaning back in his chair. "All right then," Katie said, a smile tugging at her lips. "If you can do it, I'll pay you. But if you fail, you owe me $500. It was a ridiculous bet, and in my wildest dreams, I never thought I'd be the one to take him up on it. But that's when he turned to me. "What about you, Ellie?" Mark asked, his gaze scanning me with something I couldn't quite place. "Are you up for a challenge? You could use a little glow-up. Think about it. An entire makeover, a complete transformation. You could finally be the girl you're always pretending not to want to be." There it was, the moment that set everything into motion. The challenge, the bet, the chance to finally change. Before I knew what I was saying, the words slipped out. "I'll do it." Katie and the others stared at me in shock. Mark's grin spread across his face, and he offered me a handshake. "You're on, Ellie. Let's make you the prettiest cheerleader this school has ever seen." The first few days after the bet were a blur of confusion and uncertainty. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Cheerleaders were always the embodiment of confidence and beauty, and I had none of that. But Mark seemed convinced that he could work his magic, so I didn't have much choice but to go along with it. He immediately began his training, which consisted of more than just teaching me how to cheer. It was about remaking me from the inside out. "You need to start with your look," he said one afternoon, pulling me into a clothing store after school. "You can't be a cheerleader without looking the part." I stood in front of the full-length mirror, unsure of where to start. Mark had already picked out a couple of outfits for me, all bright, bold, and revealing, things I would never have dreamed of wearing. He shoved a short, fitted skirt at me, followed by a tight tank top. My face turned red with embarrassment. "I don't know," I said, pulling back. "This is way too much. I've never dressed like this before." Mark just smiled. "It's all about confidence, Ellie. Trust me. You'll look amazing, I promise." With hesitation, I tried on the clothes. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. My legs looked longer, my waist thinner, and the colors of the clothes seemed to make my skin glow. But beneath the surface, I was still unsure. Could I really pull this off? The next step was makeup. Mark's friend Sarah, a beauty guru in her own right, spent hours teaching me how to apply foundation, eyeliner, and mascara. She showed me how to contour my face, how to make my cheekbones pop, and how to add just the right amount of blush to give me that healthy glow. The transformation was astounding. I saw someone else in the mirror, someone who looked more confident, more put together. But was this truly me? For the first time in my life, I felt like I was on the verge of something big. I didn't just look different. I felt different, like I was finally starting to peel back the layers of myself that I had kept hidden for so long. But there was still a part of me that wasn't sure. What if I wasn't good enough? What if I failed? Mark kept pushing, constantly reassuring me that I was on the right track. "You're already looking amazing," he said one afternoon after a particularly intense session of practice. "But the real test comes when you perform in front of everyone. That's when you'll see how much you've really changed." I nodded, trying to push aside the anxiety gnawing at my insides. It felt like I was preparing for something huge. But what if I wasn't ready? The challenges came sooner than I expected. The first real test of my transformation came when I had to practice with the actual cheerleading squad. Mark had arranged it, of course, but that didn't make it any less terrifying. As I walked into the gym, dressed in my new cheerleading uniform, I could feel every eye on me. The other cheerleaders, who had once seemed so far out of my league, now seemed to be scrutinizing me, sizing me up. "You're the new girl, huh?" one of them asked, a blonde named Tiffany, who had the most judgmental smile I'd ever seen. I nodded, trying to hold my head high. "Well, we'll see if you can keep up," Tiffany said with a smirk. She tossed me a pom-pom and motioned for me to follow her. I was terrified. My legs felt weak, and my arms felt like lead as I struggled to keep up with the routine. Every time I missed a step, I could feel the judgment in the air. Tiffany's eyes bore into me, and I could hear her whispering something to the others. I wanted to quit right then and there, but something inside me pushed me forward. I wasn't going to let this opportunity slip through my fingers. I kept going, each movement more fluid than the last. My mind tried to focus, to block out the negative thoughts swirling in my head. But it wasn't just the cheerleaders I had to face. It was a voice inside me that told me I wasn't good enough. That voice tried to drag me down, telling me that this was all a joke, that I was just pretending to be someone I wasn't. But I kept pushing, and with each pom-pom toss, with each jump, I felt more alive. The cheerleaders started to notice, and Tiffany's smirk began to fade. By the end of practice, I was exhausted, but something inside me had clicked. Maybe I wasn't just pretending anymore. Maybe, just maybe, I was becoming the person I always wanted to be. The final moment came unexpectedly, but when it happened, everything changed. It was the day of the big game, and the pressure was building up. I was dressed in my cheerleading outfit, my makeup perfect, my hairstyle to perfection. Mark, who had been by my side every step of the way, gave me a knowing smile as we stood near the sidelines, waiting for our turn to perform. "You've got this," he said softly. "I knew you had it in you all along." For a moment, I almost doubted myself. But then I looked out into the crowd at the excited faces of my classmates, and I realized something. I wasn't just doing this for Mark or for anyone else. I was doing this for me. When it was finally my turn, I stepped onto the field, my heart pounding in my chest. As the music began, I moved with a new sense of confidence. Each cheer, each jump, each pom-pom toss felt natural, like something I was meant to do. The crowd's energy fueled me, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was seen. And when I landed the final stunt, a perfect dismount, the roar of the crowd filled the air. Tiffany and the other cheerleaders were clapping, their smiles genuine now, and Mark was standing off to the side, his expression proud. I had done it. I had transformed, and not just on the outside, but from within. I wasn't the quiet girl anymore. I was someone else, someone stronger, more confident, and undeniably me. But the true test came right after the game, when I was standing backstage, catching my breath and trying to calm my nerves. As I walked back toward the locker room, I heard someone call my name. It was Tiffany. "Hey, Ellie. That was pretty good out there," she said, her tone softer than before. I smiled. feeling a mix of pride and disbelief. "Thanks, Tiffany. I think you've earned your place with the squad," she said with a genuine smile. "You've really come into your own." The words sent a wave of warmth through me. I had done it. I had earned the respect I never thought I could. From that day forward, everything changed. I was no longer the shy girl in the back of the class. I was Ellie, the confident cheerleader who had transformed not just her appearance, but her entire life. My friendships deepened, and my self-esteem soared. I still had my doubts from time to time, but they didn't control me anymore. I had found my confidence, my voice, and it felt incredible. Sometimes, it takes stepping outside of your comfort zone to discover the person you're meant to be. It's not about fitting into someone else's idea of who you should be, but about embracing the potential within yourself. Through challenges, doubts, and fears, we grow and transform, sometimes into the person we never thought we could be. And when we finally find that person, we realize that the most important transformation is not about how we look, but about how we see ourselves. The journey of self-discovery is one of the most rewarding experiences we can have.